Picture yourself suspended between two worlds, standing where the familiar meets the impossible, where ancient stones rise toward infinite stars, while beneath your feet, the earth itself whispers secrets that could reshape everything we thought we knew about human civilization. The night air carries more than the scent of desert sand and limestone dust. It carries the weight of millennia, the accumulated mystery of ages that have passed like shadows across this sacred landscape. Here, where the boundaries between dream and discovery blur like heat mirages in the Egyptian sun, we find ourselves drawn to one of humanity's most persistent and tantalizing enigmas, the monuments that pierce the horizon above us. Mayans, the Great Pyramid, the Sphinx, the silent guardians of ancient Egypt, may be merely the visible surface of something far more extraordinary, something that reaches not toward the heavens, but deep into the heart of the earth itself. And right now, whatever time it might be in your corner of the world, you've been called to this moment for a reason. Tonight, as the desert settles into its ancient rhythms, and the stars emerge in patterns that guided pharaohs and priests thousands of years ago, we embark on a journey that takes us not across distant lands or through foreign territories, but downward into the hidden realms that lie beneath the most studied archaeological site on Earth. If you're someone who feels that same magnetic pull toward the mysteries that lie hidden beneath our feet, make sure to subscribe, because what we're about to explore together will take you deeper into the unknown than most people dare to go. This is a journey into the deep places, the secret chambers, the underground worlds that modern technology has begun to reveal in whispered electromagnetic echoes and shadowy radar signatures. Imagine for a moment that everything you see above ground, Indri pyramid stone, precisely cut and positioned, every carved relief telling stories of gods and kings, every passage and chamber explored by countless archaeologists, represents only a fraction of what actually exists. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from tonight, because what if the true magnitude of ancient achievement lies not in the monuments that touch the sky, but in the vast networks of chambers and corridors that tunnel through solid bedrock, descending to depths that challenge our understanding of what ancient peoples could accomplish. The very ground beneath the Giza Plateau has begun to speak in a new language, one decoded not by hieroglyphs or ancient texts, but by the patient work of ground-penetrating radar, seismic imaging, and electromagnetic analysis. These modern instruments peer through limestone and sand with invisible eyes, revealing geometric patterns where none should exist, detecting hollow spaces in solid rock, mapping corridors and chambers that stretch far beyond anything visible on the surface. Each pulse of energy sent into the depths returns with information that seems to belong more in the realm of science fiction than archaeological research. The echoes speak of spiral formations descending thousands of feet into the earth, of underground cities that could rival any surface settlement, of engineering projects so ambitious they dwarf the visible pyramids above. These discoveries force us to confront questions that reach to the very foundations of our understanding of ancient capabilities and motivations. Welcome, dear explorer of hidden mysteries, to Epoch History for Sleep, where we venture beyond the boundaries of the known world into realms where ancient ingenuity meets modern detection technology, where the patience of stone meets the restless curiosity of human consciousness. I am your guide through these subterranean labyrinths of possibility, where every new discovery opens deeper questions about who we were and what we might have been capable of in ages before recorded history began. As the night deepens around us and the familiar world fades into shadows, we prepare to descend not just into the earth, but into the very heart of mystery itself. The tools of our exploration are invisible bilious radio waves and electromagnetic pulses, cosmic particles that rain down from space, and computer algorithms that transform data points into three-dimensional maps of impossible architecture. What we discover in these hidden depths may challenge everything we thought we knew about the development of human civilization, the capabilities of ancient builders, and the true scope of what lies beneath the most famous archaeological site on Earth. The journey into Giza's hidden layers is not just an archaeological expedition, but a meditation on the nature of discovery itself, on how the boundaries of the possible expand when we dare to look beneath the surface of accepted knowledge. Tonight, we follow the electromagnetic pathways deep into the earth, tracing corridors that may have been carved by hands we cannot identify, for purposes we can barely imagine, using technologies that blur the line between the ancient and the impossible. The monuments above us stand as silent witnesses to whatever truth lies buried in the darkness below. Their mathematical precision and astronomical alignments perhaps pointing not just toward the stars, but toward the hidden chambers that wait in patient darkness for the moment when humanity develops the tools to reveal their secrets. The sands of Giza have shifted and settled for thousands of years, but the mysteries they conceal are only now beginning to emerge into the light of human understanding. What we find there may transform not just our knowledge of ancient Egypt, but our conception of what human beings are capable of achieving when they set their minds to creating something that will endure across the vast expanses of time. Imagine standing at the edge of the Giza Plateau as the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon. The Great Pyramid rises before you, its limestone blocks glowing amber in the fading light. The Sphinx gazes eastward with ancient eyes, weathered by millennia of wind and sand. But what if everything you see is merely the surface of something far more profound? Beneath your feet, the bedrock stretches down into darkness, layer upon layer of limestone carved by time, and perhaps by human hands we have yet to discover. The monuments we know and marvel at may be only the visible peaks of a vast underground world, hidden for thousands of years beneath the shifting sands of Egypt. Recent discoveries have begun to whisper of chambers and passages that extend far deeper than anyone imagined. Ground-penetrating radar sends invisible pulses into the earth, returning with echoes that speak of hollow spaces, of geometric patterns that should not exist in natural stone. These are not the fevered dreams of treasure hunters or the wild theories of amateur archaeologists. These are the careful measurements of scientists, the precise readings of instruments that can see through solid rock. The story of what lies beneath Giza is still being written. Each new scan, each pulse of energy sent into the depths adds another piece to a puzzle that grows more intriguing with every revelation. We stand at the threshold of discoveries that could reshape our understanding of the ancient world, of civilizations that may have flourished and vanished before the first pyramid stone was ever lifted into place. As darkness settles over the plateau and the stars emerge in the desert sky, we begin our journey into the hidden layers of Giza. This is not just a tale of archaeological discovery, but a meditation on the mysteries that surround us, the secrets that time has buried, and the endless human quest to understand our place in the vast story of civilization. The sands hold their secrets close, but technology and human curiosity are patient excavators. They work not with shovels and brushes alone, but with waves of energy that penetrate stone and time itself, revealing glimpses of chambers that have waited in darkness for millennia. What we find there may challenge everything we thought we knew about the past, and perhaps about ourselves. Standing here in the gathering dusk, with the weight of history pressing down through layers of stone and sand, we prepare to descend into the depths of one of humanity's greatest enigmas. The surface monuments have told their stories for 4,500 years. Now it is time to listen to what the hidden chambers below might whisper to us across the vast expanse of time. The journey begins not with the strike of a pickaxe or the brush of an archaeologist's tool, but with the gentle pulse of radar waves, the patient recording of electromagnetic echoes, and the slow assembly of data points into images that reveal the impossible architecture of the deep. What we discover there may change, not just our understanding of ancient Egypt, but our perception of what human civilization is capable of achieving, preserving, and hiding beneath the patient embrace of stone and sand. Each discovery pulls us deeper into the mystery. Each revelation opens new questions that lead us further from the comfortable assumptions of conventional archaeology. and closer to the edge of wonder itself. This is where our exploration begins, at the boundary between the known and the unknowable, where science meets mystery and where the past reaches out to touch the present with fingers of stone and silence. In the gentle warmth of a March morning in 2025, teams of researchers gathered around their equipment on the Giza Plateau, unaware that they were about to peer deeper into the earth than anyone had dared to look before. The ground-penetrating radar hummed quietly as it sent its invisible pulses downward, each wave traveling through limestone and sand, bouncing back with information that would soon challenge everything we thought we knew about what lies beneath the ancient monuments. Dr. Curato Malanga adjusted the settings on his equipment one final time before beginning the deep scan. Working alongside his colleague, Filippo Bondi, they had spent months preparing for this moment. Their radar was capable of penetrating far deeper than conventional archaeological surveys, reaching depths that had never been explored beneath the pyramid complex. What they discovered that day would spark debates that continue to ripple through the archaeological community. The data that emerged from their scans painted a picture that seemed almost impossible to believe. Deep beneath the Khafre Pyramid, at a depth of over 2,100 feet, the radar detected what appeared to be a massive spiral formation carved into the bedrock itself. The spiral pattern was too regular, too precise to be a natural geological formation. Its mathematical perfection suggested the work of intelligent design, of builders who understood geometry on a scale that defied conventional understanding of ancient capabilities. The spiral stretched downward in a graceful curve, its dimensions massive beyond anything found in the known chambers of the pyramids above. Each turn of the spiral was spaced with mathematical precision, creating a pattern that resonated with the golden ratio found in so many other aspects of pyramid construction. But this was not merely decoration or symbolic geometry. The size and depth of the formation suggested a purpose that reached far beyond the ceremonial or religious functions typically associated with pyramid architecture. The implications of such a discovery rippled through the scientific community, like stones thrown into still water. Here was evidence that the builders of the pyramids had not only achieved remarkable feats of surface construction, but had also undertaken engineering projects that reached unprecedented depths into the earth itself. The technical challenges of creating such a formation would have required not just massive labor forces, but sophisticated understanding of geology, structural engineering, and excavation techniques that we typically associate with much later periods of human development. As word of the discovery began to spread through academic circles, the responses were as varied as they were passionate. Some researchers embraced the findings as evidence of sophisticated ancient engineering that had been hidden for millennia. They pointed to the precision of the measurements, the consistency of the data across multiple scans, and the clear artificial nature of the spiral pattern as proof that something extraordinary lay buried beneath the sands. Others approached the claims with healthy skepticism, as science demands. The depth of 2,100 feet was unprecedented for any known ancient construction. No civilization in the known archaeological record had ever attempted engineering projects at such depths. The logistics of excavating and constructing at that level, particularly with the tools and techniques available to ancient builders, seemed to push beyond the boundaries of possibility into the realm of speculation. The debate intensified as independent researchers attempted to verify the findings. Some questioned whether the spiral pattern might be a misinterpretation of natural geological features, perhaps limestone formations that had been carved by underground water flow over millions of years. Others suggested that the depth measurements might be affected by variations in rock density or the presence of underground water tables that could distort radar readings. Yet the precision of the spiral pattern continued to intrigue even the most cautious observers. Natural geological processes rarely create such regular, mathematically consistent formations. The spacing between each turn of the spiral, the uniformity of its dimensions, and its apparent integration with the pyramid structure above suggested a level of planning and execution that spoke of human intelligence and purpose. Dr. Malanga and his team acknowledged the extraordinary nature of their claims, while standing firm behind their methodology and findings. They emphasized that their equipment had been calibrated and tested extensively, that multiple scans had confirmed the presence of the spiral formation, and that the data had been analyzed by independent experts in radar technology and geological survey techniques. The mystery deepened when researchers began to consider the possible purpose of such a massive underground structure. A spiral of this size and depth could not have been created without enormous effort and sophisticated planning. It suggested a civilization with both the technical capability and the cultural motivation to undertake projects that reach deep into the earth itself. Some theorists proposed that the spiral might have served as a water management system, channeling underground springs or managing floodwaters during periods of high Nile flooding. The design would have allowed for controlled circulation of water through the complex, potentially serving both practical and ceremonial functions. Others suggested it could have been a storage facility for grain or other vital resources, protected by the immense weight of stone and earth above. Still others wondered if it might have had astronomical or religious significance, its spiral form echoing the movement of celestial bodies, or serving as a three-dimensional mandala for ancient spiritual practices. The spiral pattern appears in numerous ancient cultures as a symbol of the journey from the material to the spiritual realm, suggesting that this underground formation might have served as a physical representation of cosmic principles encoded in stone. The engineering challenges implied by such construction at extreme depths added layers of complexity to the mystery. Creating a spiral formation at 2,100 feet would have required solutions to problems that challenge modern engineers: the removal of thousands of tons of limestone debris, the prevention of structural collapse during excavation, the management of groundwater seepage, and the transportation of workers and materials to unprecedented depths. As the months passed after the initial announcement, the archaeological community found itself grappling with questions that reached far beyond the technical details of radar surveys and geological analysis. If the spiral formation was indeed artificial, it suggested that our understanding of ancient Egyptian capabilities and motivations was far more limited than we had assumed. It opened the possibility that beneath the monuments we thought we knew completely, entire worlds of architecture and engineering awaited discovery. The implications extended beyond archaeology into realms of engineering and physics that challenged conventional understanding. If ancient builders had indeed carved a spiral formation at such depths, they would have needed to solve problems that modern engineers still find daunting. The removal of thousands of tons of limestone, the prevention of collapse during construction, the management of groundwater seepage, and the transport of workers and materials to such depths would have required technologies and organizational capabilities that surpass what we attribute to ancient civilizations. Dr. Bondi spent weeks analyzing the electromagnetic signatures returned by their deep scans, searching for clues about the construction methods that might have been employed. The radar data suggested that the spiral walls were smooth and precisely carved, with no evidence of the rough-hewn surfaces that would be expected from primitive tools. The consistency of the measurements across the entire formation implied a level of planning and execution that spoke of master craftsmen working with sophisticated instruments. The story of the spiral below Giza remains unfinished, its chapters still being written by each new scan, each careful analysis of the data, and each debate among researchers who find themselves standing at the edge of a mystery that grows deeper with every attempt to understand it. The spiral waits in the darkness, 2,000 feet below the desert sun, patient as only stone can be, holding its secrets close while the world above struggles to comprehend its existence. The summer heat of June 2025 shimmered across the Giza Plateau as researchers prepared for what would become one of the most ambitious subsurface surveys ever attempted in Egypt. Building upon the extraordinary discoveries of the spring, teams equipped with advanced ground-penetrating radar and seismic imaging equipment, began a systematic exploration of the entire plateau, seeking to understand the full extent of what might lie hidden beneath the ancient monuments. What they discovered challenged every assumption about the scale and complexity of ancient underground construction. The radar pulses, penetrating deep into the limestone bedrock, revealed not isolated chambers or single structures, but what appeared to be an entire network of interconnected spaces stretching across vast areas beneath the plateau. The electromagnetic echoes painted a picture of chambers so large and so numerous that researchers began to speak in hushed tones of a subterranean city. Dr. Elena Vasquez, leading the international survey team, found herself staring at computer screens, displaying data that seemed to belong more in the realm of science fiction than archaeological research. The largest of the detected chambers measured over 300 feet in length and nearly 200 feet in width, with ceiling heights that appeared to reach 60 feet above the chamber floors. These were not small storage rooms or modest burial chambers, but spaces vast enough to house entire communities. The precision mapping revealed that these chambers were not randomly distributed beneath the plateau. Instead, they formed a carefully planned network, connected by corridors and passages that showed the same mathematical precision found in the pyramid structures above. The layout suggested urban planning on a scale that rivaled modern cities, with what appeared to be main thoroughfares connecting major chamber complexes and smaller passages linking residential or functional areas. As the data accumulated over weeks of intensive scanning, patterns emerged that spoke of sophisticated architectural planning. The chambers were arranged in clusters, with larger central spaces surrounded by smaller rooms in configurations that reminded researchers of palace complexes or temple compounds. Some clusters appeared to be connected to others by broad corridors that could have accommodated substantial foot traffic, while others seemed more isolated, perhaps serving specialized functions that required privacy or protection. The comparison to Derinkuyu, the famous underground city in Turkey, became inevitable as researchers struggled to find parallels for what they were discovering. Derinkuyu, carved into volcanic rock over many centuries, demonstrated that ancient civilizations were indeed capable of creating extensive underground settlements. But the Giza network appeared to dwarf even that remarkable achievement, both in scale and in the complexity of its construction through solid limestone. The engineering challenges posed by such construction through limestone bedrock added another layer of mystery to the discovery. Unlike the relatively soft volcanic rock of Derinkuyu, limestone required different tools and techniques for excavation. The chambers beneath Giza showed smooth walls and precise angles that suggested advanced cutting techniques, possibly involving bronze or even harder metal tools that would have been rare and precious in ancient times. Dr. Vasquez and her team began to develop theories about the possible purposes of such an extensive underground complex. The scale and sophistication suggested several possibilities, each more intriguing than the last. Perhaps these chambers had served as vast storage facilities, protecting grain and other essential supplies from the periodic famines that plagued ancient Egypt. The cool, stable temperatures underground would have provided ideal conditions for long-term preservation of foodstuffs and other perishable materials. Another theory proposed that the subterranean city might have functioned as a refuge during times of conflict or natural disaster. Ancient texts spoke of periodic invasions and civil wars that swept across Egypt, and a hidden underground city could have provided safety for thousands of people during such turbulent times. The chambers were large enough to house entire populations, with what appeared to be adequate ventilation systems, and possibly even underground water sources. The ritual and religious possibilities could not be ignored either. Ancient Egyptian civilization was deeply concerned with the afterlife and the journey through the underworld. Perhaps these vast chambers had served as spaces for elaborate funeral rites or mystery school initiations that required extensive underground facilities. The proximity to the pyramids and the Sphinx suggested a connection to the mortuary complex that might have extended far beyond what was visible on the surface. As summer turned to autumn, additional scanning revealed features that deepened the mystery even further. What appeared to be sophisticated water management systems ran through many of the chambers, with channels and reservoirs that could have supplied fresh water to underground inhabitants. Some chambers showed evidence of what might have been ancient heating or ventilation systems, with channels that could have circulated air throughout the complex. The discovery of what appeared to be workshops or manufacturing areas added another dimension to the underground city theory. These smaller chambers showed different acoustic properties from the main halls, suggesting spaces that might have been used for specialized crafts or industrial activities. The positioning of these areas away from the main chambers, but connected by service corridors, spoke of urban planning that separated residential, commercial, and manufacturing functions. Perhaps most intriguingly, the radar detected what appeared to be a central chamber, far larger than all the others, positioned roughly beneath the center of the triangle formed by the three main pyramids. This chamber showed acoustic properties that suggested a space designed for gathering large numbers of people, possibly for ceremonial or administrative purposes. The chamber appeared to be connected to all the major corridor systems, making it a natural hub for the entire underground network. The acoustic analysis of this central chamber revealed fascinating details about its potential construction and purpose. The space showed resonance patterns that suggested it might have been designed to amplify sound, creating acoustic effects that could have enhanced ritual activities or public gatherings. The mathematical relationships between the chamber's dimensions and the acoustic properties indicated sophisticated understanding of sound engineering that rivaled achievements in later periods. The international team working on the project faced the same frustration that had plagued earlier discoveries at Giza. Despite the wealth of data suggesting extraordinary underground architecture, no excavation permits had been granted to physically explore any of the detected chambers. The subterranean city remained a ghost caught in electromagnetic waves, visible to radar but untouchable by human hands. Critics of the findings pointed to this lack of physical verification as reason for skepticism. They argued that complex geological formations could potentially create radar signatures that might be misinterpreted as artificial structures. Underground limestone caves, natural fissures, and water-filled cavities could combine to create patterns that sophisticated instruments might read as chambers and corridors. Yet the mathematical precision of the layouts, the regularity of the chamber dimensions, and the clear evidence of planned connectivity between spaces continued to argue for human design rather than natural formation. The underground network showed the same attention to geometric relationships found in the surface monuments, suggesting that whoever built the pyramids had also planned and executed the subterranean complex. As researchers continued their analysis through the final months of 2025, the image of a vast underground city beneath Giza grew more detailed and more compelling. Each new scan added chambers to the map. Each measurement confirmed the precision of the construction, and each discovery raised new questions about the capabilities and motivations of the ancient builders who had somehow carved an entire world from solid stone and then hidden it beneath the desert sands for millennia. The growing database of underground features began to reveal patterns that suggested different phases of construction or different functional areas within the complex. Some chambers showed construction techniques that appeared more primitive, while others displayed sophisticated engineering that exceeded anything found in the surface monuments. This variability suggested either a long period of development spanning many generations, or the work of different groups with varying levels of technological capability. The water management systems detected throughout the complex showed particular sophistication, with channels that appeared to connect to both natural springs and engineered reservoirs. The network could have supplied fresh water to thousands of inhabitants, while also managing drainage and waste removal. Such systems required not only advanced engineering knowledge, but also careful planning to coordinate construction across the entire complex. While the world's attention focused on the dramatic claims of deep spirals and vast underground cities, a team of Japanese researchers worked with characteristic patience and precision on a far more modest but ultimately more verifiable project. Their approach embodied the careful methodology that has made Japanese archaeology renowned for its thoroughness and attention to detail. What they discovered would prove that sometimes the most significant revelations come not from the deepest excavations, but from the most careful observations. Dr. Hiroshi Takahashi and his colleagues from the University of Tokyo had spent the better part of 2025 conducting systematic ground-penetrating radar surveys of the areas surrounding the Great Pyramid complex. Unlike the ambitious deep scans that captured headlines, their work focused on the shallow subsurface, probing depths of no more than 30 feet below ground level. Their methodology was conservative, their claims modest, and their findings absolutely verifiable. The Japanese team's approach reflected a philosophy that valued incremental progress over sensational discovery. They understood that archaeology advances through the accumulation of carefully verified evidence, rather than through revolutionary leaps based on extraordinary claims. Their radar equipment was calibrated to detect subtle variations in subsurface density, looking for anomalies that might indicate buried structures or modified bedrock. Working primarily in the area near the Western Cemetery, where rows of mastaba tombs marked the burial places of nobles and officials from the Old Kingdom period. The team began to detect patterns that suggested previously unknown structures lay hidden just below the surface. The anomalies were subtle, requiring careful analysis to distinguish from natural variations in the limestone bedrock, but they were consistent and clearly artificial in origin. The first confirmed anomaly appeared as an L-shaped structure extending roughly 40 feet in length, with walls that appeared to be constructed of fitted stone blocks, similar to those used in the visible mastaba tombs above ground. The structure was shallow enough that core sampling could confirm its existence without major excavation, providing the kind of physical verification that the deeper discoveries lacked. Further scanning revealed additional L-shaped structures arranged in what appeared to be a planned layout, with consistent spacing and orientation that suggested they were part of a larger architectural scheme. The positioning of these structures, in relation to the existing mastaba tombs, indicated that they might be previously unknown burial chambers or storage facilities associated with the cemetery complex. What made the Japanese discovery particularly significant was not just the detection of the structures, but the team's ability to map them completely and verify their existence through multiple independent methods. Core samples confirmed that the anomalies were indeed artificial stone structures. Electromagnetic surveys verified the radar findings. Even traditional archaeological techniques, like careful surface examination, revealed subtle depressions and mounds that corresponded to the buried structures below. Dr. Takahashi's team also discovered what they termed cavity anomalies, spaces within the bedrock that appeared to be either natural caves that had been modified by human activity or entirely artificial chambers carved into the limestone. These cavities were smaller than the dramatic chambers reported elsewhere on the plateau, but they were numerous and showed clear evidence of human modification. The cavity anomalies clustered around the L-shaped structures in patterns that suggested a functional relationship. Some appeared to be connected to the structures by narrow passages, while others seemed to serve as isolated storage or burial spaces. The acoustic properties of these cavities, as revealed by sonar mapping, indicated that many were still largely intact, their original shapes preserved by the protective embrace of solid stone. The methodical Japanese approach extended to their analysis of the discovered structures. Rather than speculating about grand purposes or ancient mysteries, they focused on understanding how these buried features related to the known archaeology of the area. The L-shaped structures appeared to be extensions or modifications of the mastaba tomb complex, possibly representing burial practices or architectural techniques that had not been previously recognized. The team's detailed mapping revealed that the buried structures followed the same orientation patterns as the visible mastaba tombs, with their long axes aligned to cardinal directions and their spacing conforming to the mathematical relationships found throughout the Giza complex. This suggested that the buried structures were contemporary with the visible tombs, rather than representing some earlier or later period of construction. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Japanese discovery was the evidence it provided for previously unknown construction techniques used by the pyramid builders. The L-shaped structures showed sophisticated joinery methods and the use of precisely cut stones that fit together without mortar. These techniques were more advanced than what had been previously documented for mastaba tomb construction, suggesting that the builders possessed skills and knowledge that extended beyond what was visible in the surface monuments. The cavity anomalies revealed evidence of tool marks and finishing techniques that provided new insights into the methods used by ancient stonemasons. Some cavities showed the smooth, curved surfaces that indicated the use of advanced cutting tools, while others displayed the step-like patterns characteristic of gradual excavation using traditional bronze implements. The variety of techniques suggested either a long period of construction or the work of craftsmen with different skill levels and tool sets. As the Japanese team prepared their findings for publication in peer-reviewed journals, they took care to present their discoveries within the established framework of Egyptian archaeology. They acknowledged the relationship between their findings and the more sensational claims being made about deeper structures, but emphasized that their own work represented verifiable additions to the known archaeological record, rather than revolutionary reinterpretations of ancient history. The significance of the Japanese discovery extended beyond the specific structures they had mapped and verified. Their work demonstrated that systematic, careful investigation of the Giza Plateau continued to yield new information about ancient construction and burial practices. Even in an area that had been studied intensively for over a century, patient observation and modern technology could still reveal previously unknown aspects of the ancient world. Their success in obtaining physical verification of their discoveries also provided a model for how claims about subsurface structures at Giza might be validated. The combination of multiple survey techniques, core sampling, and careful analysis offered a pathway toward confirming or refuting the more dramatic discoveries that relied solely on radar interpretation. The L-shaped structures and cavity anomalies mapped by the Japanese team became part of the growing body of evidence that the visible monuments at Giza represented only a portion of the ancient construction on the plateau. While their findings were less sensational than claims of deep spiral formations or vast underground cities, they provided solid, verifiable proof that significant archaeological features remained to be discovered beneath the desert sands. As Dr. Takahashi reflected on his team's patient work, he emphasized that archaeology advances through the accumulation of carefully verified evidence rather than through dramatic revelations. The quiet discoveries made by methodical investigation might lack the immediate impact of more sensational claims, but they provided the foundation upon which reliable knowledge of the past could be built. In the patient work of mapping every anomaly and verifying every structure, the true story of Giza's hidden layers was slowly but surely being revealed. Throughout the corridors of universities and the hushed reading rooms of archaeological libraries around the world, a familiar pattern began to emerge as news of the Giza discoveries spread. It was a pattern as old as human knowledge itself. The delicate dance between revolutionary discovery and institutional caution, between the excitement of new possibilities and the careful preservation of established understanding. The resistance to radical reinterpretations of Giza was neither new nor unexpected, but it followed rhythms that had shaped the progress of human knowledge for centuries. The academic establishment's response to claims of vast underground structures beneath Giza reflected the same cautious skepticism that had greeted countless other discoveries that challenged conventional wisdom. Peer review committees questioned methodologies, demanded additional evidence, and expressed concern about the extraordinary nature of the claims. This resistance was not born of malice or closed-mindedness, but from the essential role that skepticism plays in maintaining the integrity of scientific knowledge. To understand the current debate surrounding Giza, one need only look back to the story of Göbekli Tepe, that remarkable archaeological site in southeastern Turkey that rewrote our understanding of early human civilization. When Klaus Schmidt first proposed that the massive stone circles he had discovered dated to nearly 12,000 years ago, the archaeological establishment reacted with profound skepticism. The idea that hunter-gatherer societies could have created such sophisticated monuments challenged fundamental assumptions about the development of human civilization. For decades, conventional archaeology had taught that monumental architecture was the product of agricultural societies with surplus labor and complex social hierarchies. The notion that nomadic peoples could have organized the construction of massive stone temples seemed to contradict everything that was known about prehistoric human capabilities. Yet patient excavation and careful dating eventually confirmed that Göbekli Tepe predated the agricultural revolution by thousands of years, forcing a complete reconsideration of early human social development. The transformation of Göbekli Tepe from dismissed anomaly to accepted paradigm shift illustrates the complex process by which revolutionary discoveries become integrated into established knowledge. Initial resistance gave way to grudging acknowledgement as evidence accumulated, and eventually to enthusiastic embrace as the implications of the discovery were fully understood. The site that had once been considered impossible became a cornerstone of new theories about the origins of civilization itself. The parallels between the Göbekli Tepe controversy and the current debates about Giza are striking. Both involve claims that challenge fundamental assumptions about ancient capabilities. Both propose that conventional timelines and interpretations may be inadequate to explain the archaeological evidence, and both face the institutional resistance that inevitably greets discoveries that threaten to overturn established paradigms. Yet there are also significant differences between the two situations. Göbekli Tepe benefited from active excavation that provided physical evidence to support its extraordinary claims. The stone circles could be touched, measured, and dated using multiple independent methods. The underground structures at Giza remain largely theoretical, visible only through the interpretation of electromagnetic data that requires sophisticated analysis and technical expertise to understand. The Egyptian government's restrictions on major excavations at Giza have created an additional layer of complexity that was not present in the Göbekli Tepe case. While Turkish authorities eventually embraced the archaeological significance of Schmidt's discoveries and supported extensive excavation efforts, Egyptian officials have maintained strict controls over access to the Giza Plateau that limit the ability of researchers to physically verify claims about subsurface structures. These restrictions reflect legitimate concerns about protecting one of the world's most important archaeological sites from potentially damaging excavation efforts. The pyramids and the Sphinx have already suffered from centuries of treasure hunting, inappropriate restoration attempts, and poorly planned archaeological interventions. The desire to preserve these monuments for future generations provides a strong justification for limiting access to researchers whose methods or motivations might threaten the integrity of the site. However, the restrictions have also created a situation where extraordinary claims about underground structures cannot be adequately tested using the gold standard of archaeological evidence, physical excavation, and analysis. This limitation has allowed debates to continue without resolution, with proponents and skeptics arguing over the interpretation of radar data rather than examining actual artifacts or architectural features. The pattern of resistance to new discoveries at Giza also reflects deeper issues within the field of Egyptology itself. The study of ancient Egypt has been shaped by more than 2 centuries of scholarship that has created detailed chronologies, established interpretive frameworks, and built academic careers on specific understandings of Egyptian civilization. Revolutionary discoveries that threaten to overturn these established paradigms face not just scientific skepticism, but also institutional inertia and professional investment in existing theories. The social dynamics of academic disciplines play a crucial role in determining how new discoveries are received and evaluated. Senior scholars who have built their careers on particular interpretations of Egyptian history may be naturally resistant to evidence that calls their life's work into question. Younger researchers may be reluctant to challenge established authorities whose support they need for career advancement. These human factors, while understandable, can slow the integration of legitimate new discoveries into accepted knowledge. The resistance patterns also reflect the broader challenges facing archaeology in an era of rapid technological advancement. Traditional archaeological methods, based on careful excavation and analysis of physical artifacts, are being supplemented and sometimes challenged by new technologies that can peer beneath the surface without disturbing the soil. The interpretation of radar, sonar, and electromagnetic data requires different skills and expertise than traditional archaeological analysis, creating potential conflicts between old and new approaches to understanding the past. The democratization of information through the internet has added another dimension to the resistance patterns surrounding Giza discoveries. Claims about underground structures can spread rapidly through social media and popular websites, reaching public audiences before they have been subjected to rigorous peer review. This can create situations where popular enthusiasm for dramatic discoveries outpaces scientific verification, leading to backlash from academic institutions concerned about maintaining standards of evidence and analysis. The economic factors surrounding archaeological research also influence patterns of resistance and acceptance. Major excavation projects require substantial funding, often from government sources or private foundations that may have their own agendas and preferences. The desire to avoid controversial projects that might generate negative publicity can lead funding agencies to favor safe, conventional research over potentially revolutionary but risky investigations. The international politics of archaeology add yet another layer of complexity to the patterns of resistance surrounding Giza discoveries. Egypt's control over access to its archaeological sites reflects legitimate concerns about cultural heritage and national sovereignty, but it also creates situations where important research may be influenced by political considerations rather than purely scientific ones. The desire to maintain national prestige and control over the narrative of ancient Egyptian achievements can influence decisions about which research projects receive approval and support. As the debates over underground structures at Giza continue to unfold, the patterns of resistance and acceptance that emerge will likely follow the familiar rhythms that have shaped archaeological knowledge for generations. Initial skepticism will give way to grudging acknowledgement if evidence accumulates, and eventually to enthusiastic embrace if the discoveries prove to revolutionize our understanding of the ancient world. The process may take years or even decades, but the patient accumulation of evidence and the gradual shift in scholarly consensus will ultimately determine which claims about hidden chambers and underground cities become part of accepted archaeological knowledge. The historical precedents for such transformations in archaeological understanding extend far beyond Göbekli Tepe. The discovery of Troy by Heinrich Schliemann was initially dismissed by many scholars who considered Homer's Iliad to be pure fiction rather than a source of historical information. The existence of the Minoan civilization on Crete was unknown until Arthur Evans began his excavations in the early 20th century, revealing a sophisticated Bronze Age culture that had been completely forgotten by history. Each of these discoveries required the archaeological establishment to expand its understanding of what was possible in the ancient world. The acceptance of new paradigms often came slowly, as entrenched views gave way to mounting evidence that could no longer be ignored. The resistance was not merely obstinate conservatism, but reflected the legitimate scientific principle that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. In the case of Giza, the resistance to claims about vast underground structures also reflects the unique position that ancient Egypt holds in popular imagination and academic study. Egypt has been the subject of intense scholarly attention for over 2 centuries, with generations of archaeologists, historians, and linguists building detailed models of Egyptian civilization. Any discovery that threatens to fundamentally alter this carefully constructed understanding faces not just scientific skepticism, but also the weight of accumulated scholarly investment. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the desert air is still cool and the tourists have not yet arrived, the Sphinx sits in contemplative silence, its weathered face turned toward the rising sun. For countless mornings, this ancient guardian has watched the light creep across the Giza Plateau, its limestone features bearing the subtle testimony of time itself. But within those weathered surfaces lies a story that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about when these monuments were built and by whom. The evidence begins with water, that essential element of life that seems so foreign to the current desert environment of Giza. Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University, spent years studying the weathering patterns on the Sphinx enclosure walls, searching for clues about the forces that had shaped the ancient limestone. What he discovered was a pattern of erosion that spoke not of wind and sand, but of flowing water, of rainfall heavy enough to carve deep vertical channels into solid stone. The implications of this water erosion evidence ripple through our understanding of Egyptian chronology, like stones thrown into a still pond. The Sphinx, according to conventional archaeology, was carved during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BC. But the weathering patterns suggest exposure to significant rainfall over extended periods, and Egypt had not experienced such wet conditions since the end of the last ice age, thousands of years before the traditionally accepted date of the Sphinx's construction. Working alongside John Anthony West, a writer and independent researcher who had first proposed the water erosion hypothesis, Dr. Schoch found himself confronting evidence that pointed toward a far more ancient origin for the Sphinx than anyone in mainstream archaeology was prepared to accept. The vertical fissures and the undulating horizontal weathering patterns were consistent with precipitation weathering rather than the wind erosion that would be expected in the desert climate that has characterized the region for the past 5,000 years. The resistance to this geological evidence was swift and vigorous, reflecting the profound implications of accepting a pre-dynastic date for the Sphinx. If the monument had indeed been carved during a wetter climatic period, it would push its origins back to at least 7000 BC, and possibly much earlier. Such a date would require acknowledging the existence of a sophisticated civilization in Egypt, thousands of years before the emergence of the dynastic culture that we associate with monument building. Yet the geological evidence was supported by other anomalies that had long puzzled Egyptologists. The inventory stela, a granite tablet discovered near the Great Pyramid, contains hieroglyphic text that refers to the Sphinx as already ancient during the reign of Khufu, the pharaoh traditionally credited with building the Great Pyramid. While many scholars dismiss this stela as a later creation, others point to its detailed architectural references and historical specificity as evidence of genuine ancient knowledge. The text of the inventory stela describes Khufu as having built a temple beside the Sphinx, which it calls the dwelling place of Harmachis, an ancient name for the sun god associated with the monument. The stela suggests that both the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid existed before Khufu's reign, with the pharaoh serving more as a restorer than as an original builder. Such a reading would fundamentally alter our understanding of the Pyramid Age and the achievements attributed to specific pharaohs. Archaeological anomalies within the Great Pyramid itself add another layer of mystery to questions about the true age and purpose of the Giza monuments. The precision of the pyramid's construction, with its carefully aligned chambers and passages, reflects a level of mathematical and engineering sophistication that seems to exceed what we might expect from a civilization that had only recently developed monumental stone architecture. The internal chambers of the Great Pyramid show construction techniques that appear to represent different phases of work, possibly separated by significant periods of time. The rough-hewn subterranean chamber, with its unfinished appearance and crude passage connections, contrasts sharply with the precisely finished king's and queen's chambers higher in the structure. Some researchers interpret this as evidence of multiple construction phases, possibly representing the work of different civilizations, separated by centuries or millennia. The mathematical relationships encoded in the pyramid's dimensions have puzzled researchers since the monument was first systematically measured. The ratio of the pyramid's height to the perimeter of its base approximates p, while other dimensional relationships seem to encode the golden ratio and various astronomical constants. While some scholars argue that these mathematical relationships are coincidental or the result of later reinterpretation, others see them as evidence of sophisticated knowledge that exceeds what is typically attributed to ancient Egyptian mathematicians. The precision of the pyramid's orientation, aligned to cardinal directions with an accuracy that was not achieved by later monuments, raises additional questions about the technological capabilities of the builders. The ability to achieve such precise alignment required not only advanced surveying techniques, but also sophisticated understanding of astronomical observation and mathematical calculation. Mainstream Egyptology has responded to these challenges with detailed rebuttals that defend the conventional chronology and attribute the monuments to the pharaohs traditionally associated with them. Scholars point to archaeological evidence linking the pyramids to specific pharaohs, including boat pits, causeway construction, and hieroglyphic inscriptions that clearly identify the monuments with their supposed builders. The debate over the Sphinx's age has been particularly vigorous, with geologists and Egyptologists offering competing interpretations of the weathering evidence. Some scholars argue that the erosion patterns could result from factors other than rainfall, including chemical weathering, flooding from nearby irrigation, or even maintenance activities that involved washing the monument. Others question whether the current understanding of ancient Egyptian climate is complete enough to rule out periods of increased precipitation during the traditionally accepted dates for the Sphinx's construction. The architectural evidence within the pyramid complex also admits multiple interpretations. The apparent construction phases could represent planned design changes rather than work separated by long periods, and the mathematical relationships in the pyramid's dimensions might reflect the sophistication of Egyptian mathematics rather than knowledge inherited from earlier civilizations. Yet questions persist about features that seem difficult to explain within conventional chronologies. The unfinished appearance of certain chambers and passages suggests work that was interrupted or abandoned, possibly pointing to construction histories more complex than the traditional narrative of single-phase building projects completed during individual pharaohs' reigns. The emergence of new dating techniques and analytical methods continues to provide fresh perspectives on these ancient questions. Improved understanding of ancient climate change offers more nuanced views of when Egypt might have experienced the wet conditions suggested by the Sphinx weathering patterns. Advanced materials analysis provides new insights into construction techniques and the sources of building materials used in the monuments. The possibility that the visible monuments at Giza represent the final phase of construction activities that began much earlier has gained support from the discoveries of underground structures that appear to predate the surface buildings. If sophisticated builders were indeed active on the plateau thousands of years before the traditionally accepted dates, it would provide a context for understanding how such precise and mathematically sophisticated monuments could have been achieved by civilizations that conventional archaeology portrays as only recently emerged from prehistoric simplicity. The builders before history remain elusive, visible only in the subtle testimony of weathered stone and the mathematical precision of architectural relationships that seem to encode knowledge beyond what conventional chronology would allow. Whether they represent forgotten phases of Egyptian civilization, unknown predecessor cultures, or simply the sophisticated achievements of the pharaohs working within time frames we have yet to fully understand, their presence seems to whisper from the ancient stones of Giza, suggesting stories more complex and more mysterious than our current understanding allows us to imagine. The weathering evidence on the Sphinx continues to generate debate as new analytical techniques are applied to the ancient limestone. Recent studies using advanced microscopic analysis have revealed details about the erosion patterns that were not visible to earlier researchers. These studies show clear differences between areas of the monument that have been exposed to different weathering conditions, supporting the argument that the Sphinx experienced significant water erosion before the current arid climate was established. The climate data for ancient Egypt has also become more sophisticated, with paleoclimatological studies providing detailed records of rainfall and temperature patterns over thousands of years. These studies confirm that the region experienced a much wetter climate during the early Holocene period, with sufficient rainfall to support the kind of water erosion observed on the Sphinx. The transition to the current arid climate occurred gradually over several millennia, providing a time frame within which the water erosion could have occurred. In the shadowed space between the massive paws of the Sphinx, where ancient stones meet the shifting sands of time, lies one of archaeology's most persistent and tantalizing mysteries. It is here, according to prophecy and legend, that a great hall filled with the preserved wisdom of a lost civilization waits to be discovered. The Hall of Records has captured imaginations for nearly a century, inspiring both serious scientific investigation and wild speculation about what secrets might lie hidden beneath the patient gaze of the Sphinx. The modern legend of the Hall of Records traces its origins to Edgar Cayce, the American mystic known as the Sleeping Prophet, who in the early 20th century made remarkable claims about hidden chambers beneath the Giza Plateau. Speaking in trance states that his followers believed connected him to ancient sources of knowledge. Cayce described vast underground libraries containing the complete history of human civilization, preserved in crystal records and metallic tablets that would revolutionize our understanding of the past. According to Cayce's readings, delivered between 1933 and 1944, the Hall of Records was created by survivors of Atlantis who fled to Egypt following the destruction of their homeland. These refugees, possessing advanced knowledge and technology, built the hall as a repository for their civilization's achievements, ensuring that future generations would have access to wisdom that might otherwise be lost forever. The hall was said to contain not just historical records, but also advanced scientific knowledge and spiritual teachings that could transform human understanding. The specific location of this repository, according to Cayce, lay beneath the right paw of the Sphinx, accessible through a tunnel that connected to the underground chamber system. The entrance would be found when humanity was ready to receive the knowledge contained within, with the discovery timed to coincide with the dawn of a new age of human consciousness and spiritual development. While many dismissed Cayce's claims as the fantasies of a mystic, the specificity of his descriptions and the consistency of his various readings about the Hall of Records attracted the attention of researchers who wondered whether some kernel of truth might lie within the prophetic narratives. The idea that ancient civilizations might have created underground libraries or archives was not inherently impossible, and several historical examples suggested that such preservation efforts had indeed been undertaken in various cultures. In the 1990s, serious scientific investigation of the area around the Sphinx's paws began when Dr. Robert Schuck, the geologist studying the water erosion patterns on the monument, collaborated with seismologist Thomas Dubecki to conduct subsurface surveys using seismic refraction techniques. Their work revealed clear evidence of cavities and anomalous zones beneath the Sphinx enclosure, providing the first scientific verification that hollow spaces did indeed exist in the locations suggested by the Cayce readings. The seismic surveys detected what appeared to be a substantial cavity beneath the left paw of the Sphinx, approximately 9 feet below the surface. Additional anomalies were found in front of the monument and extending back toward the body, suggesting a more complex system of underground spaces than had been previously suspected. While the surveys could not determine whether these cavities were natural caves or artificial chambers, their existence provided tantalizing support for claims about hidden chambers beneath the monument. Dr. Schuck approached these findings with appropriate scientific caution, noting that the detected cavities could represent natural limestone caves, ancient quarry excavations, or chambers created for practical purposes rather than as repositories of ancient wisdom. The limestone bedrock beneath the Sphinx was known to contain natural cave systems, and the area had been extensively quarried during ancient times, creating numerous underground spaces that might account for the seismic anomalies. Yet the positioning and characteristics of some of the detected cavities seemed to suggest artificial modification rather than purely natural formation. The cavity beneath the left paw showed regular dimensions and what appeared to be worked walls, while the anomalies extending back from the monument followed patterns that seemed more consistent with deliberately excavated chambers than with natural cave systems. Ancient texts and traditions from various cultures added intriguing context to the search for hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx. Egyptian sources from the Ptolemaic period refer to underground chambers associated with Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, located near the great lion guardian of the plateau. These references, while often dismissed as mythological, showed remarkable consistency in their descriptions of hidden knowledge repositories protected by lion guardians. Arabic sources from the medieval period described treasure chambers beneath the Sphinx, accessible through secret passages that were known to a few initiates but hidden from the general population. While these accounts were often intermingled with folklore and legend, their persistence across different historical periods suggested the possibility of genuine traditions about underground spaces that had been maintained through oral transmission. The mystery deepened when researchers began to examine the possible connections between the underground chambers and the broader network of passages and rooms that seemed to extend throughout the Giza Plateau. If the spaces beneath the Sphinx were part of a larger underground complex, they might represent components of an integrated system designed for storage, ritual, or refuge, rather than isolated chambers created for specific purposes. Modern ground-penetrating radar surveys have provided additional evidence for underground structures in the vicinity of the Sphinx. Though the interpretation of this data remains a subject of debate among researchers, some scans suggest the presence of right-angled chambers and connecting passages that would be consistent with artificial construction, while others are interpreted as natural geological features or the remnants of ancient quarrying activities. The Egyptian government's restrictions on excavation around the Sphinx have prevented direct exploration of the detected cavities, leaving their nature and contents a matter of speculation. The desire to preserve the monument and its immediate surroundings has resulted in policies that prioritize conservation over investigation, effectively protecting whatever lies beneath from both discovery and potential damage. This preservation policy has created a unique situation where scientific evidence points to the existence of underground chambers, but political and conservation considerations prevent the kind of physical exploration that would resolve questions about their nature and contents. The Hall of Records, if it exists, remains protected not by ancient guardians or mystical barriers, but by modern bureaucratic decisions about site management and heritage preservation. Independent researchers have continued to advocate for limited exploration of the underground spaces, proposing non-invasive techniques that could provide information about the chambers without requiring major excavation. These proposals include the use of fiber optic cameras inserted through small drill holes, electromagnetic mapping that could reveal the internal structure of the spaces, and chemical analysis of air samples that might indicate the presence of organic materials or artificial substances within the chambers. The debate over the Hall of Records reflects broader questions about the relationship between mystical traditions and scientific investigation. While the specific claims made by Edgar Cayce may lack empirical support, the existence of underground chambers beneath the Sphinx appears to be scientifically verified. The challenge lies in determining whether these spaces contain anything that would justify the extraordinary claims made about their significance. Recent discoveries of underground chambers at other ancient sites around the world have demonstrated that sophisticated civilizations did indeed create hidden repositories for important materials. The Dead Sea Scrolls, the Library of Alexandria, and various other examples show that the preservation of knowledge through concealment was a recognized practice in the ancient world. Whether the chambers beneath the Sphinx contain anything resembling the Hall of Records described by Edgar Cayce remains one of archaeology's great unanswered questions. The spaces are there, waiting in the darkness beneath the ancient monument, holding whatever secrets they may contain. Until exploration is permitted, they remain suspended between myth and reality, their contents known only to the stone guardians who have watched over them through the long centuries of sand and silence. The technological advances that have revealed these underground spaces continue to provide new information about their characteristics and potential contents. Recent electromagnetic surveys have detected what appear to be metallic objects within some of the chambers, though whether these represent ancient artifacts or modern intrusions remains unclear. The chemical analysis of air samples from drill holes has revealed unusual concentrations of certain gases that might indicate the presence of organic materials or artificial substances. The acoustic properties of the detected chambers have also provided intriguing clues about their construction and purpose. Some spaces show resonance patterns that suggest they might have been designed to amplify sound, creating acoustic effects that could have enhanced ritual activities or served practical communication purposes. The mathematical relationships between chamber dimensions and acoustic properties indicate sophisticated understanding of sound engineering. Across the vast tapestry of human memory, woven through the myths and legends of cultures separated by oceans and millennia, runs a common thread that speaks of waters rising to cover the world. From the ancient tablets of Mesopotamia to the oral traditions of peoples who had never met, from the sacred texts of the world's great religions to the folklore of isolated island communities, the story of a great flood echoes through human consciousness with a persistence that suggests something more than mere coincidence. The flood narratives share remarkable similarities, despite emerging from cultures that had no apparent contact with one another. The Babylonian epic of Gilgamesh tells of Utnapishtim, who survived the deluge by building a great vessel on the instruction of the gods. The Hebrew tradition speaks of Noah and his ark, preserving life through the waters that covered the earth. Hindu texts describe Manu, who was saved from the cosmic flood by Vishnu in his fish incarnation. Greek mythology recounts how Deucalion and Pyrrha survived Zeus's flood to repopulate the world. These stories extend far beyond the ancient civilizations of the Near East and Mediterranean. Native American traditions from tribes across North and South America tell of great floods that transformed the world. Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime stories describe waters that rose to reshape the landscape. African cultures preserve tales of devastating floods that marked the end of previous ages. Even in the isolated islands of the Pacific, oral traditions speak of times when the waters rose to cover all but the highest peaks. The consistency of these flood memories across such diverse cultures has long intrigued scholars, seeking to understand their origins. Some dismiss them as natural human responses to local flooding events, arguing that all agricultural societies experience devastating floods and naturally develop mythologies to explain and cope with such disasters. Others suggest that the stories reflect psychological archetypes, universal symbols that emerge from the human unconscious, rather than memories of actual historical events. Yet a growing body of scientific evidence suggests that the flood stories may preserve genuine memories of catastrophic events that occurred at the end of the last ice age, approximately 12,800 years ago. The period known as the Younger Dryas saw dramatic climate changes that included the rapid melting of massive ice sheets, the release of enormous volumes of meltwater into the oceans, and significant changes in sea level that would have affected coastal populations around the world. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, proposed by researchers including Richard Firestone, Alan West, and Simon Wenrick Smith, suggests that a cosmic impact event triggered the rapid climate changes that ended the Ice Age. According to this theory, fragments of a disintegrating comet struck the North American ice sheet, causing massive melting and flooding, while simultaneously triggering a brief return to Ice Age conditions, as debris in the atmosphere blocked solar radiation. The evidence for this impact includes a distinctive layer of sediment found at sites across North America and Europe, containing unusual concentrations of iridium, microscopic diamonds, and spherules that are consistent with cosmic impact. This layer, dated to approximately 12,800 years ago, coincides with the extinction of numerous large mammal species and significant changes in human population patterns across North America. If the Younger Dryas impact did occur as proposed, It would have caused flooding on a scale that dwarfs any natural disaster in recorded human history. The rapid melting of ice sheets would have released volumes of water equivalent to hundreds of times the flow of all modern rivers combined. Coastal areas around the world would have been inundated, while inland regions experienced devastating floods as meltwater carved new channels and overwhelmed existing drainage systems. The timing of this catastrophic flooding coincides remarkably well with the end of the last Ice Age wet period in Egypt, when the climate of North Africa was significantly more humid than it has been during recorded history. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Sahara was green and populated during this period, with rivers and lakes supporting human communities across what is now desert. The transition to the current arid climate occurred gradually over several thousand years, but the initial changes began around the time of the proposed Younger Dryas impact. The implications for the monuments at Giza are profound if we accept the possibility that advanced human societies existed during the wet period that ended with the global flooding events of the Younger Dryas. Communities that had developed sophisticated technologies and accumulated knowledge over millennia would have faced an existential threat as their world was transformed by rising waters and changing climate. The weathering patterns on the Sphinx, which show clear evidence of water erosion rather than the wind erosion expected in a desert environment, take on new significance when viewed in the context of the global flood traditions. If the monument was indeed carved during the wet period that preceded the Younger Dryas climate changes, it would have been exposed to the heavy rainfall and flooding that characterized the transition to the current arid climate. The builders of the Sphinx and the other monuments at Giza may have been among the survivors of communities that experienced the catastrophic flooding described in the global flood traditions. The precision and sophistication of their constructions could reflect knowledge and techniques developed over thousands of years by civilizations that were forced to adapt to dramatically changing environmental conditions. The underground chambers and passages detected beneath the Giza Plateau take on particular significance when viewed as potential flood refuges or storage facilities created by people who understood the cyclical nature of catastrophic climate change. The scale and complexity of these underground systems suggest long-term planning for survival during periods of environmental crisis. Ancient Egyptian traditions themselves preserve memories of devastating floods and the efforts of early kings to manage and control floodwaters. The pharaoh Menes, traditionally considered the first ruler of United Egypt, was credited with major hydraulic engineering projects that redirected the course of the Nile and created the city of Memphis. These traditions may preserve echoes of much earlier flood management efforts that were necessary for survival during the climate transitions of the Younger Dryas period. The mathematical and astronomical knowledge encoded in the Great Pyramid's dimensions and orientation suggests that its builders possessed sophisticated understanding of celestial cycles and Earth measurements that would have required centuries or millennia to develop. Such knowledge would have been particularly valuable for predicting and preparing for cyclical climate changes and their associated flooding events. The preservation of knowledge through monumental architecture takes on new meaning when viewed as a response to catastrophic events that threaten the continuity of human civilization. If the builders of Giza were indeed survivors of communities that had experienced devastating floods, they would have understood the importance of creating permanent records that could survive future catastrophes. The global flood traditions often include themes of divine warning and preparation, suggesting that some communities had advanced knowledge of the coming disasters and were able to take measures to preserve themselves and their most important cultural achievements. The monuments at Giza, with their astronomical alignments and encoded mathematical relationships, may represent such preservation efforts designed to transmit crucial knowledge to future generations who would need to understand the cyclical nature of catastrophic change. The network of underground chambers beneath Giza, if they prove to contain preserved records or artifacts, could represent one of humanity's earliest attempts to create a permanent archive that would survive the floods and climate changes that periodically reshape the world. The Hall of Records, whether it exists in the form described by Edgar Cayce or represents something else entirely, embodies the human drive to preserve knowledge against the forces of destruction and forgetting. As we stand at the edge of our own period of rapid climate change, the flood memories preserved in human traditions and possibly encoded in the monuments of Giza offer both warning and hope. They remind us that human civilizations have faced and survived catastrophic environmental changes before, and they suggest that the wisdom needed for survival may already be preserved in the patient stones that have watched over the Nile for millennia, waiting for the time when their secrets will once again be needed to guide humanity through the challenges of a changing world. The geological evidence for rapid sea level changes at the end of the last ice age continues to accumulate, supporting the possibility that the flood traditions preserve memories of real events. Underwater archaeological discoveries around the world have revealed submerged settlements and structures that were built when sea levels were hundreds of feet lower than they are today. These discoveries demonstrate that sophisticated human communities did indeed exist in coastal areas that are now underwater, lending credibility to traditions about lands and civilizations lost to rising waters. The scientific study of these flood traditions has also revealed sophisticated astronomical and calendrical knowledge encoded in the stories themselves. Many flood myths include specific timing references that correspond to astronomical events or cyclical patterns that could only be known through long-term observation of celestial movements. This suggests that the traditions may preserve not just memories of catastrophic events, but also the scientific knowledge that allowed ancient peoples to predict and prepare for such events. The moment we allow ourselves to consider that the Great Pyramid might have been standing on the Giza Plateau before 2600 BC, we step into a realm where the comfortable certainties of historical chronology begin to dissolve like morning mist before the desert sun. This single possibility, supported by growing evidence of water erosion, underground chambers, and sophisticated astronomical alignments, carries implications that ripple outward through our entire understanding of human civilization, forcing us to reconsider not just when these monuments were built, but what they tell us about the capabilities and knowledge of our ancient ancestors. The conventional timeline of human development follows a neat progression from simple to complex, from primitive to sophisticated. According to this model, humans gradually developed agriculture around 10,000 years ago, learned to work metals and build cities over the following millennia, and eventually achieved the organizational capabilities necessary for monumental architecture during the early dynastic periods of Egypt and Mesopotamia. The Great Pyramid, in this framework, represents the culmination of centuries of gradual technological and social development. But what if this progression is incomplete, masking earlier periods of sophisticated achievement that have been lost to time and catastrophe? The possibility that the Giza monuments date to a much earlier period challenges not just specific dates, but the entire framework within which we understand the development of human civilization. If advanced architectural and engineering capabilities existed thousands of years before the traditionally accepted dates, it suggests that human societies have achieved sophisticated development multiple times, perhaps following cycles of advancement and collapse that are not reflected in our current historical models. The technical challenges involved in building the Great Pyramid remain formidable even by modern standards. The precision required to quarry, transport, and position over 2 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2 and 15 tons, demands not just massive labor forces, but sophisticated planning, engineering knowledge, and organizational capabilities. The mathematical relationships encoded in the pyramid's dimensions, including approximations of pi and the golden ratio, suggest knowledge of advanced mathematics that conventional timelines place much later in human development. The astronomical alignments of the Giza monuments point toward knowledge of celestial mechanics that require generations of careful observation and calculation to develop. The Great Pyramid's orientation to cardinal directions, with precision that was not equaled by later monuments, suggests either advanced surveying techniques or the inheritance of knowledge developed over extended periods. The correlation between the layout of the three pyramids and the constellation of Orion, as proposed by Robert Bauval, implies understanding of precession and stellar movements that would have required centuries of astronomical observation to achieve. If we accept an earlier date for the Giza monuments, we must also grapple with questions about the technological capabilities of their builders. The precision cutting of granite blocks in the king's chamber, the perfect joints between massive stones, and the sophisticated internal passage systems all suggest access to tools and techniques that exceed what conventional archaeology attributes to ancient Egyptian technology. Some researchers have proposed that these achievements required knowledge of advanced metallurgy, sophisticated lifting devices, or even technologies that we have not yet rediscovered. The implications extend beyond technology to questions of social organization and cultural continuity. Building projects on the scale of the Giza monuments required coordinated efforts involving thousands of workers over extended periods. The ability to organize, feed, and house such large labor forces implies sophisticated administrative systems and surplus agricultural production that conventional timelines suggest did not exist in pre-dynastic Egypt. If the monuments are indeed much older than traditionally believed, they point toward complex societies that achieved remarkable organizational capabilities and then somehow disappeared from the historical record. The possibility of lost civilizations challenges our assumptions about the linear progress of human development. Rather than a steady advancement from simple to complex societies, human history may be characterized by cycles of rise and fall, with periods of sophisticated achievement separated by intervals of decline or catastrophe. The global flood traditions, discussed in previous chapters, suggest that such cycles may be linked to periodic environmental catastrophes that force human societies to rebuild from reduced circumstances. Archaeological evidence from sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey has already forced revisions to conventional timelines, pushing back the dates for sophisticated monumental architecture by several millennia. The temple complex at Göbekli Tepe, with its massive carved pillars and sophisticated artistic representations, predates the development of agriculture according to traditional chronologies, suggesting that complex societies could emerge and create remarkable monuments before the settled agricultural communities that we typically associate with civilization. The discovery of underwater ruins off the coasts of various continents adds another dimension to questions about lost civilizations and revised timelines. Structures submerged by rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age suggest that sophisticated building projects were undertaken during periods when global geography was dramatically different from its current configuration. These discoveries support the possibility that advanced societies existed during the wet period that preceded the current arid climate of Egypt. The technological capabilities implied by an earlier date for Giza raise fascinating questions about knowledge transmission and cultural continuity. If sophisticated engineering and mathematical knowledge existed thousands of years before the conventional dates for these achievements, how was this knowledge preserved and transmitted across generations? The possibility that information was encoded in monumental architecture takes on new significance as a means of ensuring that crucial knowledge would survive periods of social disruption or environmental catastrophe. The underground chamber systems detected beneath Giza may represent attempts to preserve not just physical artifacts, but also knowledge and cultural achievements that their builders recognized as vulnerable to loss. The scale and complexity of these underground networks suggest long-term planning for the preservation of civilization itself, implying an understanding of cyclical catastrophes and the need to prepare for periods of reconstruction. The resistance to radical timeline revisions within academic archaeology reflects legitimate concerns about maintaining scholarly standards and avoiding speculative interpretations that lack solid evidence. However, this resistance may also reflect institutional investment in existing paradigms and reluctance to acknowledge discoveries that would require fundamental revisions to established historical models. The gradual acceptance of earlier dates for sites like Göbekli Tepe demonstrates that archaeological timelines can and do change as new evidence emerges. The implications of rewriting the timeline extend beyond academic archaeology to broader questions about human potential and the nature of progress itself. If sophisticated civilizations have risen and fallen multiple times throughout human history, it suggests that our current technological achievements are not unique, but represent the rediscovery of capabilities that may have been achieved and lost before. This perspective could fundamentally alter our understanding of human history and our expectations for the future. The mystery of who built the monuments at Giza and when they accomplished this remarkable feat continues to deepen as new evidence emerges and new technologies allow us to peer more deeply into the past. Each discovery that challenges conventional chronologies opens new questions about the capabilities of ancient humans and the true complexity of our species' journey through time. The monuments themselves stand as patient witnesses to whatever truth lies hidden in their stones, their chambers, and their mathematical relationships. Whether they represent the achievements of the pharaohs traditionally credited with their construction or the legacy of much earlier builders whose civilization has been lost to time, they continue to challenge our understanding of what human beings are capable of achieving when they set their minds to transcending the limitations of their era and creating something that will endure across the vast expanses of time. The evidence for earlier construction dates continues to accumulate as new analytical techniques are applied to the monuments. Recent studies of the internal chambers have revealed construction techniques and tool marks that seem inconsistent with the tools and methods available during the traditional dates of construction. The precision of the stonework and the sophistication of the engineering solutions employed throughout the complex suggest capabilities that exceed what conventional archaeology attributes to ancient Egyptian civilization. The astronomical alignments of the monuments provide another line of evidence for earlier construction dates. The orientation of the passages and chambers within the Great Pyramid corresponds to stellar positions that would have been accurate thousands of years before the traditional construction date. This suggests either that the builders had access to astronomical knowledge spanning millennia, or that the monument was built when these alignments were actually visible. In the pre-dawn darkness of November 2017, teams of physicists and archaeologists gathered around sophisticated detection equipment positioned within the Great Pyramid. Their instruments hummed quietly as they prepared to peer deeper into the ancient monument than any human eye had ever seen. The technology they employed would have seemed like magic to the pyramid's builders, using subatomic particles that rained down from space to reveal hidden chambers that had remained secret for over 4,000 years. The Scan Pyramids project represented a convergence of cutting-edge physics and ancient mystery, bringing together researchers from France, Japan, and Egypt in an ambitious attempt to map the internal structure of the Great Pyramid without moving a single stone. Their primary tool was Muon tomography, a technique that detects cosmic ray muons as they pass through solid matter, creating images based on how these particles are absorbed or deflected by different materials and empty spaces. Muons are elementary particles created when cosmic rays collide with atoms in the Earth's upper atmosphere. Like ghostly messengers from space, they penetrate deep into solid matter, passing through rock and stone, while leaving subtle traces of their passage. Dense materials like limestone absorb more muons than empty spaces, allowing scientists to create detailed maps of internal structures by measuring the patterns of muon detection over extended periods. The first major discovery came as a surprise to researchers who had expected to confirm the pyramid's known internal structure. Instead of the familiar pattern of the King's Chamber, Queen's Chamber, and Grand Gallery, the muon detectors revealed the unmistakable signature of a large void above the Grand Gallery, a space that appeared to be at least 100 feet long and positioned at roughly the same angle as the Grand Gallery itself. Dr. Mehdi Tayyubi, one of the project's leaders, found himself staring at data that challenged fundamental assumptions about the completeness of our knowledge of the Great Pyramid. The newly detected void, which the team designated as the Big Void, was substantial enough to contain a space comparable in size to the Grand Gallery, yet it remained completely unknown to archaeologists, despite centuries of exploration and study. The precision of the muon tomography measurements left little doubt about the void's existence. Multiple detection systems confirmed the anomaly, and extended observation periods ruled out statistical fluctuations or equipment errors. The Big Void was real, substantial, and positioned in a part of the pyramid that should have been solid stone, according to all previous architectural analyses. The discovery sparked intense debate about the purpose and significance of the hidden chamber. Some researchers proposed that it might represent a construction technique, a void left to reduce the weight of stone pressing down on the grand gallery below. Others suggested it could be a previously unknown burial chamber or storage space, potentially containing artifacts or treasures that had been sealed away since the pyramid's construction. The Muon tomography technology that revealed the Big Void represented just one example of the revolutionary tools that modern science has brought to archaeological investigation. Ground-penetrating radar, first developed for geological exploration and military applications, now allows researchers to map subsurface structures with unprecedented detail. The electromagnetic pulses sent into the ground return with information about buried features, creating detailed images of what lies beneath without the need for excavation. LiDAR technology, originally developed for atmospheric research and later adapted for topographical mapping, has transformed archaeological surveys by revealing landscape features invisible to conventional observation. The laser pulses can penetrate forest canopies and detect subtle elevation changes that indicate buried structures, providing archaeologists with detailed maps of ancient settlements and monument complexes that would have taken decades to discover using traditional methods. Seismic imaging, borrowed from petroleum exploration, allows researchers to map underground structures by analyzing how sound waves travel through different materials. The technique has revealed cave systems, buried chambers, and artificial structures at sites around the world, providing non-invasive methods for understanding subsurface archaeology that would otherwise require extensive and potentially damaging excavation. The application of these technologies to the Giza Plateau has revealed a landscape far more complex than surface observation would suggest. The network of underground chambers and passages, detected by various scanning methods, paints a picture of subsurface architecture that rivals the complexity of the visible monuments above ground. Each new survey adds details to this growing map of hidden structures, suggesting that the pyramids and Sphinx represent only the visible portions of a much larger architectural complex. The Japanese team working near the Western Cemetery combined multiple scanning technologies to create detailed three-dimensional maps of the subsurface structures they discovered. Ground-penetrating radar provided the initial detection of the L-shaped formations, while electromagnetic surveys confirmed their artificial nature. Seismic methods revealed the acoustic properties of the detected chambers, providing information about their size and internal structure. The integration of multiple scanning technologies has become essential for archaeological investigation because each method provides different types of information about subsurface features. Ground-penetrating radar excels at detecting boundaries between different materials, making it ideal for mapping chamber walls and architectural features. Electromagnetic surveys can distinguish between solid stone and void spaces, providing information about internal volumes. Seismic methods reveal acoustic properties that indicate whether spaces are filled with debris, water, or air. The computational challenges involved in processing and interpreting data from these advanced scanning technologies have driven the development of sophisticated analytical software that can combine information from multiple sources into coherent three-dimensional models. Artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms now assist researchers in identifying patterns and anomalies that might be missed by human analysis, providing automated detection of features that could indicate buried structures or modified bedrock. The ongoing Japan-Egypt Grand Egyptian Museum joint mission represents the most ambitious technological investigation of the Great Pyramid ever undertaken. The project combines muon tomography with advanced ground-penetrating radar, electromagnetic surveys, and infrared thermography to create a comprehensive map of the monument's internal and subsurface structure. The goal is to detect and characterize any additional hidden chambers, while providing detailed information about construction techniques and architectural features. The thermal imaging component of the project has already revealed temperature anomalies that suggest additional voids or passages within the pyramid structure. These thermal signatures, detected using sensitive infrared cameras, indicate areas where air circulation or different materials create temperature variations that would not occur in solid stone. The patterns of thermal anomalies provide another layer of evidence for internal structures that complement the findings of other scanning technologies. The democratization of scanning technology has also enabled independent researchers and smaller institutions to contribute to the investigation of Giza's mysteries. Portable ground-penetrating radar units, once available only to major research institutions, can now be operated by individual researchers or small teams. This technological accessibility has accelerated the pace of discovery while also creating challenges for coordinating and verifying the growing volume of subsurface data. The future of technological archaeology at Giza promises even more sophisticated tools for peering into the past. Advanced particle detection systems could provide higher resolution muon tomography, revealing smaller chambers and more detailed architectural features. Quantum sensors might detect gravitational anomalies that indicate large voids or dense structures buried deep beneath the surface. Improved artificial intelligence could assist in interpreting complex datasets and identifying patterns that indicate human modification of natural rock formations. The development of micro-invasive exploration techniques offers the possibility of directly investigating detected chambers without major excavation. Fiber optic cameras small enough to pass through drill holes the width of a pencil could provide visual confirmation of suspected chambers, while causing minimal disturbance to the monument structure. Miniaturized sensors could analyze air composition, humidity, and other environmental factors that would indicate whether chambers contain organic materials or artifacts. The technological revolution in archaeological investigation has transformed our ability to explore ancient sites while preserving their integrity for future generations. The tools that revealed the Big Void in the Great Pyramid and detected the network of underground chambers beneath the Giza Plateau represent just the beginning of what may be possible as technology continues to advance. Each new discovery opens additional questions while providing the means to investigate them with ever greater precision and non-invasive methods. As we stand at the threshold of even more revolutionary advances in scanning and detection technology, the ancient monuments of Giza await further revelation of their secrets. The stones that have guarded their mysteries for millennia now yield to the gentle probing of subatomic particles and electromagnetic waves, revealing hidden chambers and passages that expand our understanding of what the ancient builders achieved and preserved for future discovery. The continuing analysis of muon tomography data from the Great Pyramid has revealed additional details about the Big Void that suggest it may be more complex than initially thought. The void appears to have multiple sections with different characteristics, possibly indicating a series of connected chambers rather than a single large space. The distribution of muon detection patterns suggests that parts of the void may contain structures or objects that partially obstruct the empty space. Recent advances in muon detection technology have improved the resolution of tomographic images, allowing researchers to distinguish features within detected voids that were not visible in earlier scans. These improvements have revealed what appear to be internal structures within the Big Void, possibly including passages, walls, or architectural features that could provide clues about its original purpose and construction. In the quiet spaces between certainty and doubt, where scientific rigor meets the vast unknown, lies a territory that deserves its own careful exploration. It is the realm of informed speculation, where mysteries, like those beneath the Giza Plateau, remind us that the boundaries of human knowledge are not fixed walls, but shifting horizons that expand as we approach them. The underground chambers that may or may not exist, the ancient civilizations that might have preceded recorded history, and the technologies that could have been lost to time all occupy this fertile ground where possibility becomes a pathway toward deeper understanding. The value of entertaining unproven possibilities extends far beyond the specific mysteries of Giza. Throughout history, the greatest advances in human knowledge have often begun with someone willing to consider what seemed impossible, to ask questions that challenged established assumptions, and to imagine realities that extended beyond the comfortable boundaries of accepted truth. The willingness to engage seriously with extraordinary claims while maintaining the critical thinking necessary to evaluate them properly represents one of the most essential skills for advancing human understanding. Consider how many discoveries that we now take for granted began as dismissed possibilities. The idea that stones could fall from the sky was rejected by the scientific establishment until meteorites were finally accepted as real phenomena. The notion that continents could drift across the Earth's surface was ridiculed until plate tectonics provided the mechanism that made continental drift not only possible but inevitable. The suggestion that bacteria could cause stomach ulcers was dismissed as absurd until Barry Marshall infected himself with Helicobacter pylori to prove the connection. Each of these examples illustrates a crucial principle about the advancement of knowledge. The boundary between the possible and the impossible is not fixed by nature, but by the limitations of current understanding. What seems impossible today may become the foundation of tomorrow's breakthroughs, while what appears certain now may prove to be incomplete or entirely wrong as new evidence emerges and new perspectives develop. The underground structures detected beneath Giza occupy this borderland between the proven and the possible. The electromagnetic echoes that suggest vast chambers, the radar signatures that indicate geometric patterns in solid rock, and the seismic anomalies that hint at artificial modifications all point toward extraordinary claims that challenge conventional archaeological understanding. Yet these same phenomena could potentially be explained by natural geological processes, equipment limitations, or misinterpretation of complex data. The responsible approach to such ambiguous evidence requires neither immediate acceptance nor automatic dismissal, but rather a careful balance of openness and skepticism that allows for continued investigation while acknowledging the current limitations of our knowledge. This balance is not always easy to maintain, as the human mind naturally tends toward either belief or disbelief, rather than the more challenging position of sustained uncertainty. The educational value of engaging with mysteries like those at Giza extends beyond their potential resolution to the critical thinking skills they develop and the sense of wonder they inspire. Students who learn to evaluate extraordinary claims using scientific reasoning develop intellectual tools that serve them well in all areas of inquiry. The process of examining evidence, considering alternative explanations, and maintaining appropriate skepticism while remaining open to new possibilities represents training in the essential skills of scientific thinking. The inspiration that comes from contemplating ancient mysteries also plays a vital role in motivating future generations of researchers and explorers. The young person who becomes fascinated by questions about lost civilizations or hidden chambers may be motivated to pursue careers in archaeology, physics, or engineering. The sense of wonder that draws people to consider the possibility of advanced ancient technologies or preserved wisdom libraries can inspire lifelong commitments to learning and discovery. The Giza Plateau, with its confirmed monuments and its speculative underground chambers, serves as a perfect laboratory for developing the kind of thinking that advances human knowledge. The visible pyramids and Sphinx provide solid evidence for remarkable ancient achievements, demonstrating that our ancestors were capable of far more than we might expect. The possible underground structures challenge us to consider whether these surface monuments represent the full extent of ancient capabilities or merely the surviving remnants of even greater achievements. The methodological challenges posed by investigating underground chambers at Giza also drive technological development. that benefits many other fields of research. The need for more precise ground-penetrating radar has spurred improvements in electromagnetic imaging technology. The desire to create detailed maps of subsurface structures has advanced computer modeling and data analysis techniques. The development of non-invasive exploration methods has applications ranging from medical imaging to geological survey to space exploration. The international collaboration required for major investigation projects at Giza demonstrates how shared mysteries can bring together researchers from different countries, disciplines, and cultural backgrounds. The Scan Pyramids project united physicists from France and Japan with Egyptian archaeologists in common pursuit of knowledge about ancient achievements. Such collaborations not only advance specific research goals, but also build relationships and understanding between different academic traditions and approaches. The preservation challenges associated with investigating ancient sites like Giza have also driven advances in conservation science and heritage management. The need to balance research goals with site protection has led to the development of increasingly sophisticated non-invasive investigation techniques. The debates over when and how to excavate potential underground chambers have contributed to more nuanced approaches to archaeological ethics and decision-making. The philosophical implications of the Giza mysteries extend beyond archaeology to fundamental questions about human nature and potential. If advanced civilizations did indeed exist in prehistory, it suggests that human beings have achieved sophisticated development multiple times, perhaps following cycles of advancement and decline that challenge linear notions of progress. Such a perspective could fundamentally alter our understanding of what human societies are capable of achieving and what we might expect for our own future. The possibility that important knowledge has been preserved in hidden chambers or encoded in monumental architecture raises questions about the relationship between information preservation and civilizational continuity. How do societies ensure that crucial knowledge survives periods of crisis or catastrophe? What methods of information storage and transmission are most reliable across long spans of time? These questions have obvious relevance for our own era of rapid technological change and environmental uncertainty. The mystery of Giza also illustrates the complex relationship between scientific investigation and public imagination. The underground chambers that may exist beneath the plateau capture popular interest precisely because they suggest possibilities that extend beyond the mundane realities of conventional archaeology. The idea that vast halls filled with ancient wisdom might await discovery appeals to deep human desires for meaning, connection with the past, and access to knowledge that could transform our understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. The responsible communication of scientific uncertainty represents another crucial skill that the Giza mysteries help develop. Learning to distinguish between what is known, what is suspected, and what is speculated requires careful attention to evidence and honest acknowledgement of limitations. The ability to discuss extraordinary possibilities without either dismissing them automatically or accepting them uncritically represents a sophisticated form of scientific literacy that serves society well in many contexts. As we contemplate the hidden chambers that may lie beneath the ancient monuments of Giza, we engage in more than archaeological speculation. We participate in the timeless human quest to understand our place in the vast story of civilization, to connect with the achievements and wisdom of our ancestors, and to imagine possibilities that extend beyond the boundaries of current knowledge. Whether these chambers exist as vast halls filled with preserved wisdom, or remain forever in the realm of possibility, they serve their purpose by inspiring wonder, motivating investigation, and reminding us that the universe still holds mysteries worthy of our most careful attention and most creative thinking. The process of investigating these mysteries also demonstrates the importance of maintaining intellectual humility in the face of the unknown. The chambers beneath Giza, if they exist, have waited in darkness for thousands of years. They will continue to wait while human knowledge slowly advances to the point where we can explore them safely and responsibly. This patience, both from the ancient stones and from modern researchers, reflects a deeper truth about the nature of discovery. The most profound mysteries are not solved quickly or easily, but through the gradual accumulation of evidence, the patient application of new technologies, and the willingness to question our assumptions while respecting the complexity of the past. As the first light of dawn touches the limestone faces of the pyramids, painting them in shades of gold and amber that have greeted countless sunrises across the millennia, we find ourselves once again where our journey began, standing on the Giza Plateau with the weight of mystery pressing up from the depths below, and the vastness of time stretching out in all directions around us. The surface beneath our feet, which seemed so solid when we first arrived, now feels different, transformed by the knowledge of what might lie hidden in the darkness below. The electromagnetic echoes that speak of chambers and passages, the radar signatures that suggest geometric patterns carved in stone, and the seismic whispers that hint at spaces where human feet may have walked thousands of years before the first pyramid stone was lifted into place. All these invisible discoveries have changed the very ground on which we stand. We have journeyed through claims of spiral formations, descending into depths that challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities, through theories of vast underground cities that could rival any surface settlement, and through careful Japanese discoveries that prove unknown structures continue to emerge from patient investigation. We have explored the patterns of resistance that greet revolutionary claims, and the evidence for builders who may have worked in ages before recorded history began. The Hall of Records, whether it exists as Edgar Cayce envisioned or represents something entirely different, embodies humanity's deepest hopes about the preservation of wisdom across the vast expanses of time. The global flood memories that echo through human consciousness suggest catastrophes that may have shaped both the monuments we see and the underground refuges we suspect. The implications of rewritten timelines challenge everything we thought we knew about the development of human civilization. Through the lens of modern technology, we have watched as muons from space reveal hidden chambers, and electromagnetic waves map subsurface anomalies, bringing tools that seem like magic to the exploration of ancient mysteries. And we have contemplated how possibility itself becomes a pathway toward understanding, even when specific claims remain suspended between proof and speculation. Now, as our exploration draws to a close, we stand transformed by the journey we have taken together. The monuments that seemed familiar have revealed depths of mystery that extend far beyond their visible surfaces. The ground that appeared solid has disclosed networks of hidden spaces that may hold secrets preserved for millennia. The past that seemed well understood has opened questions that reach into the very foundations of human achievement and potential. The Sphinx continues its ancient vigil, weathered face turned toward the rising sun, eyes that have witnessed the passage of centuries, now reflecting the morning light that has awakened the desert for countless thousands of years. But we no longer see the monument as a simple guardian of ancient tombs. It has become a keeper of mysteries that extend deep into the earth, a marker above underground chambers that may contain the preserved wisdom of civilizations whose very existence challenges our understanding of human history. The Great Pyramid rises before us with mathematical precision that continues to astonish researchers who discover new alignments and relationships encoded in its dimensions. But the monument is no longer just an isolated achievement of ancient engineering. It has become the visible peak of what may be a vast iceberg of construction, with underground extensions that could dwarf the surface structures in both scale and sophistication. The mysteries we have explored together remind us that human curiosity knows no boundaries of time or space. The same drive that motivates modern researchers to peer into hidden chambers with cosmic ray particles once inspired ancient builders to carve passages deep into solid bedrock. The desire to preserve knowledge against the forces of destruction and forgetting has created both the monuments we can see and the underground repositories we can only imagine. Whether the vast chambers suggested by electromagnetic surveys prove to contain preserved libraries, ancient technologies, or simply the patient darkness of empty stone, they have already served their purpose by expanding our sense of what might be possible. The spiral formations that may descend thousands of feet below the pyramid, and the geometric patterns that hint at mathematical knowledge encoded in stone, all these possibilities stretch our imagination and challenge us to think more broadly about human potential. The debates and discussions surrounding these discoveries reflect the very best aspects of human inquiry: the careful skepticism that demands rigorous evidence, the open-mindedness that considers extraordinary possibilities, and the patient methodology that distinguishes between speculation and established fact. All these represent the tools that have advanced human knowledge throughout history. The mysteries of Giza provide a perfect laboratory for exercising these intellectual capabilities and developing the kind of thinking that will continue to expand the boundaries of human understanding. As we prepare to leave the plateau, carrying with us the questions and possibilities we have encountered together, we take one final look at the monuments that have inspired wonder for thousands of years. And if this journey has inspired that same sense of wonder in you tonight, I'd love for you to share that feeling by hitting the like button. It helps more curious souls like yourself discover these ancient mysteries. The pyramids and Sphinx will continue their patient watch over the desert, holding their secrets close, while new technologies develop the capability to reveal them. Future generations of researchers will bring even more sophisticated tools to bear on these ancient mysteries, gradually adding to our understanding of what lies hidden beneath the sands. The journey we have shared together represents more than an exploration of specific archaeological claims. It embodies the timeless human quest to understand our place in the vast story of civilization, to connect with the achievements and wisdom of our ancestors, and to imagine possibilities that extend beyond the comfortable boundaries of current knowledge. In contemplating the hidden layers of Giza, we have engaged with questions that reach to the very heart of what it means to be human. Before you drift off to sleep tonight, take a moment to comment below and tell me, what mysteries call to you the most? Are you drawn to the underground chambers, the astronomical alignments, or perhaps something else entirely? Your thoughts become part of this ongoing conversation that spans continents and centuries. The stars that guided ancient astronomers still wheel overhead in their eternal patterns, connecting us across the millennia to builders who may have encoded celestial relationships in stone and underground chambers alike. The sun that rises over Giza today follows the same path that illuminated the work of ancient architects and engineers, whether they labored 4,000 years ago or at some even more distant time beyond the reach of recorded history. We stand atop mysteries that may never be fully resolved, suspended above depths that may always remain beyond our reach. But in the standing itself, in the willingness to contemplate extraordinary possibilities while maintaining the intellectual honesty to acknowledge what we do not know, we participate in the greatest adventure available to human consciousness, the endless exploration of mystery, meaning, and wonder that transforms both the explorers and the world they seek to understand. The chambers that may exist beneath our feet continue to wait in their limestone embrace, patient as only stone can be, holding whatever secrets they contain. Whether they prove to house the preserved wisdom of lost civilizations, advanced technologies beyond our current understanding, or simply the echoes of ambitious ancient engineering projects, they have already transformed our understanding of what the builders of Giza achieved and what they may have hidden for future discovery. As the morning light grows stronger and the desert begins to warm under the eternal sun, we carry with us the knowledge that the greatest mysteries are often hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right combination of technology, curiosity, and courage to reveal them. If you're someone who feels that same pull toward the unknown, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on Mias, because each week we venture into new mysteries that challenge everything we think we know about our ancient past. The underground chambers of Giza, real or imagined, verified or speculative, represent the enduring human belief that the past holds keys to understanding both who we have been and who we might yet become. What secrets still sleep in the darkness below? What technologies might the ancient builders have possessed that we have yet to rediscover? What warnings or wisdom might be encoded in passages carved through solid rock by hands that understood the importance of preserving knowledge across the vast chasms of time? These questions echo into the future, calling to researchers and dreamers yet unborn, promising discoveries that could revolutionize our understanding of human history and potential. The hidden depths of Giza await their moment of revelation, patient as the monuments that mark their location, enduring as the human curiosity that will eventually unlock their secrets. For this is the true gift of these ancient mysteries, not just the possibility of what we might find, but the certainty that the search itself expands our understanding of what it means to be human, to build, to preserve, and to reach across time towards something greater than ourselves. The stones will keep their secrets until we are ready to receive them, and in that waiting lies both challenge and promise, the eternal dance between human curiosity and the infinite mysteries that await our discovery. The journey into Giza's hidden depths continues, carried forward by each new scan, each technological advancement, each brave soul willing to peer into the darkness and ask the questions that echo through the chambers of time. What lies beneath? What waits to be found? And what will we do with the answers when they finally emerge from the patient embrace of ancient stone? This is Epoch History for Sleep, where every ending is a new beginning, every question a doorway to wonder, and every mystery a reminder that the greatest adventures are those that lead us deeper into the magnificent complexity of our shared human story. The depths below call to us still, and somewhere in the darkness, ancient chambers wait to tell their tales to those brave enough to listen and wise enough to understand. Sweet dreams, fellow explorer of hidden mysteries. May your rest be filled with visions of secret chambers and the whispered secrets of stones that have waited millennia to share their stories with the world above.